Well, it's just a wait and see at this point. That's all we can do. It's just hope for the best. But in the meantime, we're gonna just entertain ourselves with some iRacing. And gosh, I dare do I say that the one guy that's getting a lot of attention right now joins us on the show. Kevin Swindell joins us, picking up a couple wins with the World of Outlaws and iRacing. How you doing, Kevin?
Not too bad.
Well, I appreciate you getting up early, brother. I know it's kind of early, and we're all getting used to sleeping in, right? What else do we have to do?
Yeah, pretty much. My sleep schedule swung a few hours towards the later.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Kevin, let's just say that I think most people know that, you've really brought a lot of attention to iRacing because of your involvement in it. I know a lot of people have done it, right? But a lot of people cling on to you. You have such a huge following, and people love you and love your family and everything, Sammy, and what you've done, and your mom as well. And they've just kind of latched on to you, and you're like the face of iRacing in a little bit. Do you recognize that?
I mean, a little bit. It seems like I get a lot of questions, here and there,
Mm-hmm.
about it as we go. I think people just know that I've always kind of been the video game guy overall to an extent. So, I've done a lot over the years of R Factor and then now into iRacing, and we've been involved with the esports stuff, with the teams the last couple of years, and kind of been a big deal with that and helping them grow that. So, we've enjoyed it. It's been good to now see the growth of it and people really getting to kind of see it for what it fully is, during this time.
Yeah. There's nothing like strapping into a real sprint car, right? We understand that. But do your juices get flowing when you get ready to go out there in one of these A mains in iRacing esports series?
Yeah, a little bit. They've definitely had the nerves going, at times a little bit. The last few, it's kind of settled more as I've gotten more used to doing it, and I don't really run a whole lot normally, and probably really hadn't raced a whole lot before all this quarantine stuff started. So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of getting back in the rhythm of things, and it's something I used to do and was able to do really well, but it's kind of a repetition thing, and sometimes talking myself into sitting down and practicing is tough. But like last night, I was wore out after everything I did, and I've been doing that Rallycross deal and not wanting to make myself look dumb in that. So I've actually been doing probably more practice in that than I even have in sprint cars here lately. So I was pretty worn out last night after everything.
Yeah, you were a little late to the ASCS race last night because of the Rallycross. Tell us how that went, the Rallycross part.
It started good. I did a gazillion qualifying runs to try to be ready to get that and make sure my grid spot was good. And I actually qualified fifth with those guys, and was about as close as I've really been. And then got turned in the heat race, and that set me back. And then didn't have a great grid spot for the B, and guy got into me in turn one, which is kind of normal for those things. And they only took one, so just I got back to I think third, and was close. Just feels tough and a lot of contact, and some of those guys they care a lot, and some of them don't care at all. It seems like, and,
Right.
it makes it a little messy, but I've enjoyed it. Made the main last week, so that was better than I really thought I'd do, and then this week came in, well prepared and ready to put it on kill, and then nothing could go right. So, still enjoying it and something different. So, keep plugging away at it.
Yeah. What kind of sim rig are you using? Is it? I know a lot of people probably are curious how you set that up. Did you build this rig yourself? For your needs.
No, there's no real rig to it. Really, all I am is just the same desk I use in my little office here. For,
Oh.
the rest of the time, I just hook just clamps a wheel to it, and it's actually kind of held up there with. I got a couple books to fill the gap because it's got a little lip on it, and it's pretty crude in reality. I mean, the hand control deal is pretty neat. It's a guy that goes by SimAbility. It's the same guy that built that system that Pappas and then we're tweeting about with Wickens, but mine's just the older edition of it, where it's just it's more like two really big like F1 shifter paddles that hang on the back, and then actually move the actual shifters down a little bit and just made them into smaller little paddles, so you can kind of get to those with my pinkies. And it's probably not the perfect setup, but it gets it done. And I've gotten better at throttling it here lately. The more I've spent time in the slick, it's just it's a little bit tough at times to kind of regulate exactly what you need to. And I've got like an actual sprint car throttle spring kind of wrapped around in kind of a weird way to get a little more tension on the throttle to make it a little easier in those situations. But it does the job. It's no problem when I have to run wide open. It's just when I start on wide open, it gets a little bit more interesting.
So you got that spring on there so you can feel a little bit, and that way you're not too quick on the gas, I guess, right? So you can just have that little bit of pressure. Yeah,
it's got a little I don't even know what you call it spring in there, and it doesn't really have the tension that I need. The brake piece that they've actually got set up, it's got like a little bump rubber on it to kind of give you some regulation in it, and it works pretty nice. It just doesn't really, it's not set up to put one of those on the throttle as well, but that kind of gives actually a pretty nice progressive feel on the brake pedal, and gets it works there pretty well. So but yeah, just trying to, as the racetracks get slick, they get a little choppy too, and sometimes if you're not careful, it'll get you kind of tank slapping, and it seems like if you get on the left rear on these things, they take off pretty bad. So I had to kind of get it to where I could smooth myself up a little bit, and it wore me out for a little bit. It was tough to get used to, but it was definitely a gain in the long run.
Interesting.
Hey, Kevin, this Kirk, with the real racing shut down right now, of course, you're still heavily involved in that. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. But iRacing and this type of racing has really taken over center stage. FS1 carried the World of Outlaws last couple of weeks. You won that race at Knoxville. How special was that to win at Knoxville, the racetrack where you last set in the real car, had your accident, to win there, to come back and win with all eyes looking in?
How cool was that? Yeah.
It was neat. I honestly never really thought about it as anything, out of the ordinary. It's just another sim race there of trying to figure out how to be a little bit better than I was. I was close at Charlotte, winning that race. So knew coming in there, if I got my stuff right, that I'd be pretty close, and kind of got my butt kicked the night before on the Dirt Vision deal with Logan, and made me realize where I didn't need to go with my setup stuff. So, really made me not make that mistake again, and got the car right. And, then it was just kind of not making mistakes in the race there, and bided my time. So, all turned out well. It was fun. The what happened afterwards was neat, and kind of actually really let me even realize the kind of significance of it a little bit. So, can't complain. It was fun, and at the end of the day, it was neat to kind of have it all wrapped up in kind of a special way.
Now, you've won a lot of races in your career. You're a 4-time Chili Bowl champion, and you've won a lot of races. Just the feeling of winning, even in this type of racing there. Just what's that do for you, to just the feel of winning races?
I mean, it's probably different for me than it is, for somebody like Bell or something like that, where I'm kind of eliminated from that world now to an extent. So, racing with those guys, being able to win it's neat for me. And, just kind of, I think putting the pressure on yourself to do well, and in those deals, regardless of really what it is, and then performing is pretty satisfying overall. And it's been good because you get on there and you try to race with some of these real pro guys that spend a ton of time, and they make you feel bad about yourself a little bit, and kind of second guess if you're actually any good at it. And it's nice to kind of put me back on a playing field with guys that are kind of in my same skill level, and I guess knowing that we were kind of on a level playing field in the real cars, and then putting us there and being able to beat them is makes it pretty neat.
All right, so I've got to ask this question, because we've seen sprint car drivers drive with hand controls before. When you drive this iRacing and you're having the success that you have, is it worth the risk, or is it ever a thought in your mind, I could drive a sprint car with hand controls? Is that even a possibility, or you just don't want to take the chance of injuring yourself any further, and that's not even an option?
I mean, that part doesn't really, worry me too bad. I mean, there's nothing, I guess, about how my back's made up now that really is any different than, what it was previous. It would pretty much just take, the same thing again to do something else. It's not really like I'm, really any more fragile, I don't think, than I really was with the hardware and stuff that I have in there. So, I mean, that's not really a worry. I think more so than anything, it's just the controls that I've seen, I don't really think allow you to do the job that you really need to do. And I think the biggest thing is it just, guys I've talked to talk about it, kind of trying to pull the wheel out of your hand, which, is just normal for a sprint car or a midget or something like that. And, having to kind of have so many fingers off the wheel, puts you in a bad spot for that. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not 100% against it if, somebody ever gets a system, in the cars that's a little bit better maybe. And, I think, something like the Rallycross cars or pavement or something, I think is a lot more feasible to try to pull off and be able to do it a competitive way. And the biggest thing for me is just the way I'm wired. I can't be bad at things really, and
right.
Knowing kind of where my skill level laid before I got hurt, and then showing up and trying to do it, I'm gonna want to still be able to do it at that level. Like, just going out and riding around isn't fun for me. Like, that's I'm just way too competitive to go out and just enjoy kind of riding around and getting beat. So I'd really have to get it to a point to where I could really be competitive, or it's not even really worth it to me.
Well, I know how I think, and I'm in it to win it. And if I don't have a chance to win, I'm not interested. Period. Right? I mean,
yeah.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. No, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just, I think, a lot of people that's like, I just like to drive a race car, but for me, it was, I think, more about winning in a race car. And, if I can't do that part of it, then just, making laps and it's just not fun for me.
Yeah. All right. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, so you've been running these 410 Esports iRacing cars, doing really well in those. We know that when you run a real 410, they got a lot of horsepower, a lot more than a 360. You can get yourself out of trouble. There's things that you can do in a 410 that you can't do in a 360. We know that driving a race car, it doesn't matter what it is, it's all about momentum. But when you take horsepower away, it's even more about momentum. Is iRacing the same as the real cars? Is the 360 car, a little more? Do you feel like you have to drive it more like a real 360 car versus a real 410 car?
Yeah, I think you got to drive them a lot harder, and it kind of, I think the game, even more so than real life, is kind of a deal of really just of carrying speed, and it's definitely different. The setups are fairly similar, as they would be, and it seems like you got to do a few things different with the 360, but I mean, it's pretty realistic to kind of the struggles you go through when you go from one to the other, in the real stuff as well. So I think last night was really one of the first 360 races I've run in a while. So to get back through that D and stuff was pretty decent.
That was cool. Yeah. That was awesome. Hey, man, I was watching your donuts you did at Knoxville after your win. It's the first time I've ever seen anybody grind the sideboards while they were doing their donuts.
Yeah, it wasn't really intentional. It just I don't know what it grabbed there and tipped it over, and then I was like, shoot, man, I really wanted to try to drive this thing into the actual victory lane. So I got to get this thing.
Yeah, but the thing was so impressive. You got it back up on all four wheels. How'd you do that?
How'd you get it back up on the tires?
Yeah, I don't know. It finally just kind of, I got it to grab a couple times. I think I got up there and got in some moisture a little bit, because I did it at Lernerville too, and then I was like, I guess now I got a signature. I got to lay this thing on the side and spin around, and then I couldn't get it flipped back over. So
right.
I didn't look near as cool doing it that way, but it turned out to be kind of neat.
Hey, Kevin, before we let you go, I got to say we always appreciate your time you give us when you're in the booth with us at the Chili Bowl, and I've told you for last several years that you could have a future in television if you really wanted it. What'd you think about this year's Chili Bowl? Just give us your final analysis of this year's Chili Bowl.
It was good. Pretty good race. I didn't get to watch the Kyle Bell battle probably as much as I'd like with as good as Logan turned out at the end there, but.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a good week for the most part. We struggled to get the racetrack, I think, where it needed to be those first couple nights, it seemed like, and then they got the measurements a little bit better and got the berm moved around, and it was good old Chili Bowl. I think racetrack wise, it was one of the better, overall. Probably those last 3 days were probably as good as any. And heck, I was impressed at how quickly we knocked out the Saturday alphabet too as well this year. So
for sure.
Seems like from that side of things, they're really getting stuff, really nailed out and really down to a science. So, it's been fun to kind of, grow with that event and watch everything happen with it. And, at this rate, it may be the first, the next race we get to run at this point.
Yeah. Listen, I know that they're talking about doing something on Fox Sports 1 with the Chili Bowl, a one-night deal. But I was talking to Emmett yesterday, and how cool would it be to have a Chili Bowl where it's 6 days just like the Chili Bowl on iRacing? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Put a little money up, let everybody enter it, run it 6 days. I don't know. Is it? Some people tell me that the Chili Bowl is really tough on iRacing. Is that true?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It just, for whatever reason, the fastest line ends up being kind of something that, you just kind of slide across and becomes kind of tough to race at times. So, not really sure why. It's not really something that comes into play in real life. And I think it's more about the cars, in the game than it really is about the track. And
interesting.
It's not too bad. I mean, the early stuff race is good. If the track surface gets right, it can be pretty decent. It just it struggles. It's funny, we've run 305s in there, and the 305s actually race really good in there. They probably race more like what the midgets in real life race like. But it'd be neat. I know Holbert mentioned it a couple weeks ago when they first started talking about doing some iRacing stuff, and he was asking some questions. So kind of assume that I imagine if we stay stuck in our houses here a little bit longer, I think it's something I'm sure that they're probably going to end up entertaining.
Yeah.
Hey, when the real stuff gets kicked back up again, you're going to be pretty busy. Tell us what's going to be going on.
Yeah, I don't know how many it'll end up being now. Obviously, I think it doesn't look like we're going to get back to any of these early May races yet, but we're planning to run like 25 nights with Dad, and kind of have a 50th year tour of some sorts for him, and try to get him some good opportunity to win races again, and just try to really make something out of it. It's pretty neat that he's made it this long, and think a little bit of way kind of hoping that we get him some good runs, and he finally retires to maybe being a Chili Bowl only guy or something this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It should be good. I don't know when we're going to get back to racing, but we'll make the most of it when we do.
Hopefully it won't be long. All right, Kevin, thanks so much, man, for taking the time. I know you got a lot going on, so I appreciate you, and we're looking forward to watching you race. Are you going to run the 360 race next week at Knoxville with iRacing?
Yeah, it'll probably be the same situation again, where I'll end up showing up late from Rallycross and having to make a run through the soup, I imagine, unless something changes there. So I have fun doing it, and I think I'm definitely better at Knoxville than I am at Williams Grove. So hopefully, I can make it a little further next week.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep. See you guys.
All right, there you have it. Kevin Swindell joining us here on Track Talk, again brought to you by Lucas Oil Products, made in America, sold to the world. How can you not like that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, how can you not like Kevin Swindell?
I mean, it's so cool to see him be able to compete doing this stuff, and he's good at it.
And
not seeing him. I mean, we've missed seeing him race in a real car.
I'm not sure anybody's heard him say this before, but he did not rule out getting back into a full-size sprint car, did he?
No, but I can understand what he's saying. He don't want to just get in just to ride around either. If he was, if he's going to get, if he's going to
got to be competitive.
He wants to win.
Right.
He's just not interested in getting in and riding around.
Listen, and he probably wouldn't want to do this, and maybe I should have asked him. But he said that he drove some 305s around the Chili Bowl. Maybe that's what he do. Run a 305.
That'd be cool.
Ease up. Listen, my money's on Kevin Swindell in a 305 with hand controls.
Yeah.
Right now.